it's within us that no matter what we do, that there's going to be certain people that are going to be above everyone else. And I think it's the same with the people that are at the top, the elites, that they dictate how everything is going to be run. And this is just essentially a part of how we are as people.
It's like when you look at sort of Scientology, and people with that much influence, money and power can influence all these people, and you know, maybe that's the end result for some of these people in power, is that how many people can I influence?
Hey people, welcome back to Triangle Theory. In the last 18 episodes that we prepared, we learned a lot. We spoke about crucial topics on how to navigate life. But the main purpose of this podcast, when we started, Rupert and I, we wanted to not only learn something new, talk about philosophical topics, but also we wanted to entertain our audience and ourselves. Rupert and I, we are in love with conspiracy theories, and when we have on downtime, we indulge into them from time to time and just entertain ourselves and just having fun with them. So in today's episode, we decided to prepare a couple of conspiracy theories each, and we're going to try to look into them and determine and debunk if they are real or not.
We're not crazy, by the way.
We need a tin oil as well. Tin oil. So the first one we're going to touch on is Bob Lazar and Area 51. I feel
this is one research you did on. I mean, I am a massive fan of the whole story of Bob Lazar, but I want to hear what you have.
So just briefly, Bob Lazar claimed to have worked in the S4 section of a formerly secret military base known as Area 51, situated in a corner of the Nevada test site. He essentially worked on the flying discs, on 9 flying discs.
He was reverse engineering alien spacecrafts.
Yeah. So I'll just pass on to you because I prepared about. I just want to see, what do you think? Do you think, like, when, because you had a story so many times, myself included, do you think he tells the truth?
I 100% think he's telling the truth. Because if you follow everything that he said, also just for the audience as well, I'm going to share a link to where you can find out more about each of these conspiracies and where I find them.
He's got the whole folder.
I've got a whole folder of links and all the other shit, and you can start making your own assumptions and we could talk about it. The reason why I think this guy's telling the truth is because his story is so consistent, and from when he first became a whistleblower to even in recent interviews, like, he hasn't deviated from the story. He's got no personal gain from telling the story. Really, he's actually it's had negative impacts on his life. So then it's kind of like, why would you
put yourself in that?
Why would you put yourself in a situation where you've had press, media coverage, they've gone into your personal life, they've spoken about you and your wife and your family, you've had, also like the community around aliens, like, it's a weird fucking community. You're gonna have people at your door asking you weird questions about stuff, and it's just, I don't think, especially during that time, it's just not I don't know, it just, to me, it wouldn't add up for someone that would make something up like that in such specific detail of his I don't know.
The thing is that he doesn't have a history of lying in the past, and they asked his wife, his friends, and like every one of them told, like, no, he's like, he never told any of this weird stuff. It's just that story that he told them, and that's it. Like, people who are full of shit, like that, they talk and that they lie. And I had this friend back in Lithuania that he always used to lie, just random stuff, lying for no reason, not literally, like, and we used to call him, like, why the fuck are you saying that? Like, we know you're lying. And he's like, oh, I don't know, like, for some reason he just used to lie a lot. So he was full of shit and he was known as a liar. But I don't think you can create this random story out of nowhere and then be that normal guy that yeah, I'm just like,
So you believe he's telling the truth as well?
yeah, 100%. 100%. I truly believe he tells the truth.
Because it's also with interviews where he's also sort of with other people that have really followed his story as well and followed his journey, and some stuff has come to light that he was doubted for, that wasn't true, that has come to sort of public knowledge that it is true in some of his story, when he talks about sort of the way in which his understandings of how in which gravity works and things like that, and there's actually like knowledge, there's actually a proof of when he talks about how he would have to scan into in and out of the building.
Like, well, they scanning the bones.
They actually
of their bones,
found like hard photographic evidence of that, whether it was before people made out as if he was lying about all of that sort of stuff. And he just makes a very compelling argument to a very fascinating story. And to me, around that time, it feels like there was definitely something going on around that time. And I don't know, for someone like me that kind of wants to believe in sort of extraterrestrial life, it just hearing that story and seeing the documentary, seeing the interviews, and sort of the knowledge he has on just the subject itself when it comes to back engineering engines and machines and all of that sort of stuff. It just, and the way in which it was all compartmentalized, so like he would only get to hear a certain amount. It just, to me, that all kind of makes valid sense in the way in which if a government was back engineering, that's probably how they would have done it. So yeah, it's a theory that I believe to be true just from my own, and I think it's. Hey guys, thank you so much for making it this far into the podcast. If you have any feedback, then please let us know, as we always want to make this podcast better. So hearing from you is always a pleasure. Please subscribe to all of our platforms. Get involved at Triangle Theory. If you've got any comments, or if you want to share any topics that you think that me and Conrad would like to talk about, then please get involved. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much. Because with Bob Lazar, it's kind of like when I think about someone that would be working on those crafts, you would think it would be someone of that sort of background as well. And again, like going back to it, why would you want to kind of make up stuff like that, you know, if it's not going to benefit you?
Yeah. Well, another thing, what you said, that the craft that he was working on, it had just to double check, the craft used an element 115.
Yeah.
And at that time, no one really knew about that element at that time while he was working. But then in 2013, the Russian scientists discovered that the same element, and they added a periodic how would you call it? Periodic.
They added it to the periodic table.
That's it.
Yeah.
So he said about that element even before it's been discovered. So that's another, almost like a testimony that, like he knew something that we didn't know. So I do believe he's telling the truth.
Is there anything else in his story that stood out to you that may be a reason, sort of gave you more confidence that his story is real as well?
Well, yeah, like look how many whistleblowers there was at that time, but for some reason FBI raided his home, and like they tried to ask many questions of his friends and his family, and they tried to just kind of like those raids tells that this guy knows some shit and he shouldn't talk. So I guess that's it. Like that element 115, the pictures that you showed where you can check the bone density. And his story, like I watched his whole podcast with Joe Rogan, and I was like, I don't think you're lying. Like, obviously, I don't know the person, and I can't guarantee that 100%. But as a nerd of aliens, I love that story, and I think it's true.
Yeah, for sure.
And as well, like when he took his friends to near that area, and they looked up to the sky, and they were like flying all these flying saucers and that.
And I think what's interesting is the way in which he describes the vessel itself. Like, it's got no means of propulsion. It's got no means of, like, there's no physical wires within the, like, a lot of it's all from the way in which he believes the craft to work is that it revolves around it hasn't even got like a thruster within it. Like, it's all kind of placed on top of each other, and he was like, the only thing that resembled some sort of kind of human engineering was like a hatch. And I don't know, it just seems and then when you sort of see depictions of like footage that's taken from people, it kind of resembles that. Yeah, it kind of resembles that. It resembles exactly kind of what he's saying in that sense. And I don't know, I think even at that time, like, you can't make, and there's also, like, to say within the conspiracy that now in sort of recent years, like, if you look at footage that's kind of come light and sort of other whistleblowers that, you know, we're talking like
David Grush.
Yeah, David Grush, like, they have categorically said that they are in possession of,
you know what it is,
alien, and they are back engineering it, and then that's
exactly.
Kind of and then if you look at sort of at that time, where all of a sudden, when they had access to crafts, then all of a sudden, like, there was stealth bombers, then they had sort of microwaves, and they understood all of this kind of other like X-ray was then all of a sudden kind of introduced. It's like all these huge advancements in technology from them having access to.
And you know what's like another thing? What I do believe about aliens, all of that stuff, because and okay, so Bob Lazar was a scientist, and he was one of the first whistleblowers that we've got something that
there's something true, yeah.
There's something is there. But now David Grush, and then was this other guy's name, David, the pilot.
Yeah, I know which one you.
David. I think it's also David.
Yeah, I think it is.
I forgot his surname, but anyway, and it's not only them two. Like, there's more guys that are whistleblowers, but these people are just not random people. They were they used to work in military, and they used to have a high rank in that military. It's not like that guy, the pilot is a firefighter pilot, and then he used to work for Navy for like 30 years or like 20 years. Like, when you think about it, like, it's not gonna be that this guy worked for Navy for like 20 years, and then he realized, oh fuck it, I'm just gonna start whistleblowing about some alien stuff without having any evidence. Like, he definitely saw some shit. And
also that, and they're also putting their like careers on the line. They're putting their
say it again.
Putting their careers on the line.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to.
Their reputations on the line.
Like, the reputation, career.
Yeah, everything.
It's just like, you're not going to do that if you don't have any evidence. So I definitely do believe that they know something that we don't, and they start to it just comes into reality, you know. But then again, I'm so pissed when I'm reading about it, because like, I thought when all of these TikTok started to blow as videos, like that TikTok thing when it was just jumping all around, and then there was more and more of these videos that aliens exist, and it seems like no one gives a fuck, like no one gives a shit, and everyone started to, I thought,
kind of willingly accept that it was okay.
Yeah, when they released those videos, I thought people going to go crazy. Like, I thought it was going to be on every news channel, but no one really paid attention to that. And I feel maybe that is the strategy, to like release like bit by bit, until people, when people going to see it, they like, oh yeah, we knew. Like,
we kind of already know. That doesn't really bother us. It's like we've kind of been subjected to the idea that this does exist. It's not some kind of huge shock. It's like people are comfortable with the fact that there probably is something that exists, because there's been more and more information that's been released.
Yeah, you
From
kind of expecting that this is going to happen.
Yeah,
Maybe that is the strategy.
I mean, I think it's kind of crazy to think that we would be the only life form.
David Fravor, that is
David. That's the one. And his story was amazing because you got someone that's been a fighter pilot doing these sort of aerial sort of doing these maneuvers and doing these training sessions, and they say that they see these things all the time.
All the time.
Yeah, it's not even things that happen in occurrence, but where their training is sort of out into the ocean. It's funny because when I worked at sea, I always thought I would kind of hope to see something kind of crazy.
You didn't?
Nothing. But like, even, I don't know, there's something to be said about sort of like oceans. It does feel kind of like alien-like.
Well, when you think we explore, probably we know more about space than the depths of the ocean. So the fact that we know more about space rather than the depths of the ocean is kind of like, what?
I know, it's crazy.
We don't know much that much
because
about our own planet.
It's so vast, and to even get down there is insane. Like, to even explore those depths is unnatural for us to get. Like, we don't have the technology to be able to do that.
Well, if you're a billionaire, you can go all the way down, but then
Man,
shit can go wrong.
shit can go wrong and very quickly, as we know.
I don't know why I'm laughing, to be honest, because it's actually crazy what happened to that submarine. Like,
it's a savage accident.
why would you do that in the first place? I don't know.
Would you go down if you had all that money?
I mean, I would love to, obviously.
Would you if you could go to space for a day, and like, because have you seen you can go up in that helium balloon and be actually in space for like 8 hours and then you come back down? Have you seen that?
Mm-mm.
So they're making.
I would love to do
They're
that.
trying to make space travel commercial. Like, they're trying to commercialize going to space. So there's this. It's like a balloon it's like a helium balloon that slowly inflates the higher you get into the atmosphere, and then supposedly you're in space, so you can actually like experience what it would be like, and then it's like you get to kind of see like Earth and everything, and then after a while you come back down and descend, and that's, I don't know how much the experience is, but they're trying to make that more
accessible.
Yeah, because what is it? The owner of Amazon, Jeff Bezos is is someone that's supposedly going to be one of the first people to go to space.
I thought he did it already, no?
Has he?
Origin.
Oh, what is that? What it is?
But I think what he focuses on is like getting the resources from the moon back to Earth somehow. I don't know how they're going to do it, but it's crazy.
There was also this other thing that I was looking at, where in the first moon landing, whether or not that's actually a true thing is another conspiracy, but it's not one I've got on for today, but we can talk about that another time. But they were saying that in the first moon landing, there were depictions of UFOs like watching that whole scenario happen.
Seriously?
Yeah, supposedly. I'll send you the podcast and I'll put it in the link here, because it's like some of the astronauts, it wasn't Neil Armstrong, but the other came out and were like, yeah, we saw this, that, and the other. There was like weird shit going on the moon. So why would they say that if it was just a standard moon landing? But whether or not you believe the moon landing actually was real or not is a different conspiracy all in all. But
I think they've been to the moon.
Do you think?
I do.
Because the other argument to that is that because America was in the space race with Russia.
Yeah, it was that. Yeah, it was.
There was like this can compete to, so they staged it in a Hollywood like basement essentially and staged the moon landing. But
I don't know, man. Like, I think.
But supposedly they landed on the moon with less technology than we have in our iPhones today, which is kind of crazy if you think about it.
Seriously.
Think about how nuts it is to get to the moon in terms of trajectory, trying to make sure that you'll get, like, how much physics is involved Do you think we were advanced enough at that time to be able to? Maybe we were. Who knows? But
I feel
idea is
like,
that,
okay, so after that, have you ever been to the moon? Never. Like, no one has been to the moon.
oh, what since
Like,
since
what
that?
about-
Oh, no, I think there's been other. They've just stopped. But now they're starting to reintroduce astronauts to go back to the moon, because what they want to try and do.
But as in, after that moon landing, what is it, Apollo 18? What was that? Apollo...
What, the moon landing?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Apollo 18, isn't it?
Is it 11 or 18? I don't remember. Anyway, has any other countries been to the moon? Or it's just
Not that I know
America?
of. No, I think it might just be America.
Because I was... I feel like if they would have faked it, it would be very beneficial for other countries to debunk it. That no, you haven't been to the moon. Like, I know you're lying, and I feel with the resources it's possible to debunk it.
Well, apparently there's now a race to try and colonize the moon and actually have a base on the moon, because the idea is that if you look at solar energy, and solar energy, you can only get the power from solar energy for a certain amount of time during the day before it's nighttime. But the idea is that if you could put solar panels in space and transfer that energy back to Earth, you would have constant energy the whole time.
So that's what Blue Origin wants to do, I think.
Is harness the energy from the sun all day, every day.
So.
Because they think they found a way to transfer that energy into like radio waves that come back to Earth, and then that would be infinite energy. And it's free energy, which is mental.
Free energy.
But then you think, like,
be paid.
maybe that doesn't benefit the economy, because look at all the people that benefit off of.
Like, when I hear this stuff, like that they want to build bases on the moon, transfer energy through radio waves, it's just, I mean, humans are just fascinating. Like the way they come up with ideas and.
Well, it's all science, isn't it? It's all
exactly.
It's all these.
But like it's just how they come up with that.
Well, because they're like, if you if you talk to a physicist or someone that's just on a completely different realm.
Absolutely.
It's like talking to an artist. They're just completely thinking in other ways that just such out the box thinking. Or like, even if you look at these creative directors that are creating new products for Apple or for other big companies, they literally have these big rooms in these big buildings where they're just
focus on that.
Yeah, they're just in these think rooms, in these think tanks, and they're just bouncing off crazy ideas with an infinite amount of money, where they can just be like, I want to create this, I want to create this. How do you? It's just amazing. It's just.
It's really fascinating how humans just can do that. So when you think about Bob Lazar, do you think we think it's true? Or?
I think it's true, and I think it's true because, and I feel like I've done enough of my own research to think that someone like that is telling the truth, because I think where there's been gaps in the government trying to cover it up, there's been enough crumb to be able to go, actually, it is true. And there is no harm. And I don't know what the harm would be in knowing if there's extraterrestrials anyway. I think what fascinates...
Well, it would be harm, because then... Okay, so if...
I know it debunks some sort of, like,
religious
views, but at the same time, like, who's to say that that's... Because there's so many arguments to say that maybe that's... because also, if you think about the evolution of the universe, right? The universe is, 13.8 billion years old? They actually now think the universe is potentially twice as old as that.
Yeah, I've seen that now.
And if the Earth is 4.4 billion years old, and then if you look at kind of when it was sort of between the beginning of the universe started and sort of when we started, there's been a fucking hell of a long time from like how many planets could have evolved like ours millions of years before our civilization, that's been able to conjure up the advancement of technology to into space travel and interdimension travel. Who's to say that aliens that we encounter today aren't just our future selves that have been able
Exactly.
to manipulate and come back in time. And all
And
this
he used to
kind
say
of
that universe we were living in is just one universe. Maybe there's just different universes.
yeah, and then there's the
Everyone.
multiverse theory of,
Yeah.
you know, what if there's, it's just, it's so hard to think about. But what really fascinates me about Bob Lazar's story is that he says was evidence of spacecrafts that had been found from an archaeological dig, which would mean that there were aliens that were
Way before that.
here way before we were. So then it kind of looks into tying in with.
Have you heard of Anunnaki stuff? That like
Mm.
we obviously that's a very, but apparently they say the reason people love gold is because apparently there was this alien species that they had to defend their planet from. I think it's from radio. How do you call it? Radio. Like the sun.
Oh, well, radiation.
Radiation, yeah. So apparently they had to get a lot of gold and like put around their planet so that it can, I think, it can protect their planet from deviating. I think so. They found a lot. Like they looked for different planets and they came up to Earth and they like, this is like loads of gold here. So but we were chimps. We didn't really know how to do it. So they made us like smarter, and then we started to like mine gold for them. But I don't know, I don't know how accurate is that. But like,
But dude, like, there's even conspiracies about like whether or not we're already in discussions with sort of aliens and potentially trading people for information and stuff like.
remember I mentioned to you that show on Netflix, Free Body something.
Yeah, was that what it was? Is that what?
So
it
that's literally what is like this lady made a contact with aliens. They're like, and she like come, but she said it without even. By the way, it's a spoiler alert. But she said it without even, because she's like, our human race is going down anyway, so you might as well come and help us to survive. And then it shows like that they start to come and everyone's like, what the fuck is happening? Who inviting them? And like, oh mate, that show is so good. I would really recommend to watch it.
Me too. Going on to a conspiracy that I thought or have thought about. Who do you think built the pyramids?
Definitely not slaves, man.
No.
I just refuse to believe in that. Like when you think about how accurate is built, it's just the mathematical accuracy of it
So
is.
some facts on it then. So pyramids were built in construction, which you had blocks that were quarried from 500 miles away. Some blocks weighing in over 70 tons that were lifted in the King's Chamber, which was over 350 feet above ground, which is as high as like the Statue of Liberty, essentially. Like
70
so
tons.
70 tons.
The
So
ropes.
if you think about, supposedly, some theories suggest of wet sand, that they could
Yeah.
push blocks up wet sand, but that
No
just-
ramps.
like no ramps. Yeah. So then there's this hinting of a lost technology, potentially either through alien technology or through the idea that
The sound vibration.
sound vibrations being able to
Mm.
lift matter in a way that could put these blocks into position.
Bro, have you seen they doing I think they lifting or they cutting metal
What, with
like
sound?
with
With water. Yeah.
With water.
So there's this other conspiracy where it kind of talks about back in sort of Atlantean times, and it kind of talks about sort of this guy Matthias De Stefano talks about different guilds that lived in these times. So it's kind of the ages before the Egyptian times, where they talk about these different guilds. So these people that had access to becoming one with the elements, and a lot of it was regarding sort of cutting stones, because if you look at the pyramids, and I've never been to Giza, but I really want to go.
I'd love to go to Egypt.
And I know that we want to go together, and we will. But the photos that I've seen of the King's Chamber and all the rest of it, and parts of Egypt, and I've looked at so many videos, and I've seen some of these stones are so fine cut that you can't even put like a razor blade through it. And actually, like, we wouldn't be able to cut granite, even with the technology that we have today, like even with a circular saw. So then you're like, how the fuck could they have ever cut stone like that? And then you hear stories of like, well, maybe it was a civilization that was able to manipulate water in a way that they could put water on the stone and then vibrate the water in a way that would be able to cut it.
So
which again, I think kind of makes sense.
Like,
what's that?
Nikola Tesla was doing... Hey guys, your feedback is very important. And no, this is not an advertisement. Actually, what I'm asking from you is to leave a comment below what you liked and most importantly, what you disliked about this episode, because we can improve on the next episodes and we can make a better content for you to listen. Give us also a topics you'd like to us talking about, and we can prepare, do your research and talk about it on the next episodes. Thank you.
So Nikola Tesla, which is again, it's another conspiracy because he just mysteriously fucking was taken away. Like,
seriously?
Yeah, like he was they took all away his work, so all of his, because he was mysteriously killed.
I read it because he was in a race with Thomas Edison.
So
because Thomas Edison was a entrepreneur at the same time as he was inventor, and then apparently Nikola Tesla found a way to make the electricity so it would be free somehow.
Yeah, but he was coming up with work on frequency and vibration, which opens up further speculations. Many of his patents were seized by the government, which hinted at potential control, because he was finding he had a fascination with the pyramids as well, and the fact that they had significance with their structure and where they were positioned. On the earth. So if you look at the Great Pyramid, the precise alignment to true north is like 1/60th of a degree to the central locations. And then also if the pyramid was there and you were to take its longitude and latitude and you were to sort of draw that around the earth, it covers all, and you were to put like a line around the earth, it would cover all of Earth's landmass.
Seriously?
Which means it's like directly within the middle of, it's like essentially the center of Earth's landmass is where it's positioned. And then where you've kind of got, so I've got to kind of look back at this because my brain's kind of running, but if you were to, where the pyramid also sits, it sits between the equator and the North Pole, and it sits on latitude 30, which is at the center, which also holds significance. Because if you were to scale up the pyramid, you would essentially get the circumference of the Earth. So it just has very precise numbers and significance to essentially to the Earth, which kind of leads to, again, going back to the Nikola Tesla thing. A lot of his work was trying to come up with free energy, and then all of a sudden he mysteriously disappeared. And then it kind of like leads you to believe, well, clearly these structures do have huge significance.
Well, I listened somewhere that if as an example now we look into colonize Mars and Moon, and when we're going to land there, we're going to look for the best spot that would be for us to survive or just to live. So I guess that's, if we didn't build pyramids, if aliens built pyramids, whatever, they came to the Earth and they're like, where is the best spot to put this power plant, which is a pyramid, and that's why the numbers are so precise, because that makes sense to build it there. This
is a really interesting podcast about everyone's souls that walks this earth has at some point been through or experienced Egypt. And they say that because the Sphinx is older than the pyramids, is what they say, or is what the hypothesis is. But essentially, the pyramid has the where it situates in where it is that, like you were saying, power plant. It has significance to be able to. And this is there's a really interesting guy called Robert Schoch, and Robert Schoch sort of talks about this in sort of further detail, where he talks about it being a map of a spirit realm, in that the pyramid is a way in which you can access a different realm of consciousness. But the Egyptians were not a manipulator, but they could control the net, which means they could
in and out,
sort of in and out, but also have control over reality. In that sense, they could create and manifest different things in this reality through the control of what was called the net. And there's depictions of hieroglyphs on the Great Pyramids that kind of suggest that. And in different parts of in different areas of the Giza Plateau, there's lots of different stories that talk about the Atlantean times, the age before, where they talk about sort of these civilizations that had a greater knowledge about understanding and fundamentals of the way in which they control, like, matter and how they control themselves. And essentially, like, the construction of the Great Pyramid was Isis, because when her husband...
Whose husband?
Osiris. So Osiris, essentially the Egyptian god, dies, and Isis creates the Great Pyramid of Giza to be able to be in contact with Osiris. And what it is, it's a way, it's essentially a power plant for her to be able to transition between that and the spirit realm. And that the whole of the Giza Plateau is a way for, is essentially a map of that. So it's just, what I believe of that is that I believe that there's far more significance to the Egyptians and the structures than it just being a tomb. I don't think it is that.
They never really found any pharaohs in there.
No, and like, even if you look at, like, if you look at the maths behind the pyramids, where you've even got sort of, take the longitude and latitude, and you scale that up by 43,200, which is a very significant number in...
Is the light of speed, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, the actual longitude and latitude is you can get the exact speed of light, which is the light that would travel through the universe at kilometers per second. But its alignments to build a structure like a pyramid, I don't even think we could make today, because even if you were to fuck up one stone by 1 degree, the whole thing would just be fucked. Yeah. And then if you look at then it aligning with true north and where it's situated and how it covers the majority of the landmass, and then then you look at this the Sphinx, where it sort of lines up with the spring equinox. So when the sun rises in the east, it's pointing to that. It's the same as temple in Angkor in Cambodia, and I've actually been there. And when you go and you see the sunrise over the middle pyramid, over the middle pillar, and it's directly in line with the spring equinox. And they say that the Sphinx is actually a lot older than the pyramids, because the pyramids they claim is only 4,300 years old, which is potentially true, but the Sphinx is actually a lot older, and it didn't have the head of a pharaoh, but actually had the head of a lion, because where the Earth's rotation is on a precession, and if you know anything about precession, then the Earth is on a slight tilt and it wobbles, and the way in which we would map that is by looking at
You're a proper nerd on it. But I love it. I love it.
is by looking at stars, and it kind of goes to the dawning of the age of
Yeah.
Aquarius, which is the one that we're in now, but 12,500 years ago when they
That's
built the
exactly the Younger Dryad.
Well, yeah, but it would have been pointing at the constellation
Yeah.
Leo, which is supposedly what the Sphinx was. And it's interesting because when you look at Egyptians claim that they stumbled across the Giza Plateau.
Yeah.
They didn't actually build it.
Mm.
And I think there's just so much to be said for kind of opening up the story to maybe being a wider picture. than
Yeah.
it actually
No,
is.
pyramids are fascinating, and I think I learned a lot from Graham Hancock and Robert Shaw, and then John. There's this
John Anthony West.
yes, that guy is amazing series on YouTube as well.
There's also Robert Grant as well that talks a lot about it. Robert Grant. It talks a lot about sort of kind of that sort of spirit realm between Egypt and how they would have had access between the two.
Yeah.
What's your next theory?
I chose one of the most popular ones, but the reason I chose it because of what was happening currently with Ryan Garcia.
Oh shit! Yeah, fine.
So they look
Bohemian
Nazi
Grove.
stuff. And all right, so I'm going to ask you a question, and I'm going to answer my own side of it. Do you think that there are a group of people that runs the world?
I think there's like elites that have influence. Yeah, for sure. Like,
But do you think there are like
I don't think
it
I don't think.
dictates-
Yeah, I don't think.
not politics, but people that we don't know,
I don't think politicians make the decisions. For sure not.
someone above them?
there's either above or people that have influence that run shit, that can turn off the grid, or look at companies like Big Pharma, or huge institutions that have the ability to
Yeah.
run shit. I think What's your
Well,
take on it?
the way I look at it, right, is so. But before I'm going to share that, I remember Putin, the Russian president, said that like the president in the United States has nothing, like no power in there, because eventually people with black suits going to come and tell him what to do. So if he knows about that stuff, there are some people above president, obviously. But the way I look at it, right? So, sorry. If you look at, let's just say football, there are certain people who are the best at what they do at football. So there was, I'm not a huge football fan, but Ronaldo and Messi were like the people that are the best of the best. The goats. Then you look at martial artists on John Jones, Jules St. Pierre, are these people. Look at boxing right now is it's Canelo or Mike Tyson or Muhammad Ali. There's like, wherever you look, and in society, in a sport, a business, Elon Musk right now with Jeff Bezos, and wherever you look, there are a group of people that are at the top level of what they do. If you look at podcasting, it's Triangle Theory, it's Joe Rogan and so on. So I believe it's our nature to become the best. I mean, not our nature, but it's within us that no matter what we do, that there's going to be certain people that are going to be above everyone else. And I think it's the same with the people that are at the top, the elites, that they dictate how everything is going to be run. And this is just essentially a part of how we are as people. There is going to be a group of people that are going to be above everyone else, and they're just going to dictate how everything.
Do you think there's like a certain agenda that they have?
How do you mean?
Well, like when you look at like elites and stuff, like would you say, because if they've already got all the money, and if they've already got sort of all the control, what then would be the fucking end goal? They just want to keep in control. Like when you think about sort of
Probably.
things like Bohemian Grove and sort of all of these kind of.
Well, look at Ryan Garcia now. What's happening, right? Like, I don't know if he's just obviously he's very young, and to get that amount of money and fame at this stage of life is never really a good thing. Like, at the moment, I'm reading autobiography about Mike Tyson, and he
Okay.
became a heavyweight champion when he was 20 years old, and he got like all the fame and all the money and all the girls and everything he wanted. He got, and now I'm reading his story, and he said we went shopping once with my wife and her mum, and before I had to give them $500,000, I bought my wife a Mercedes for 85,000. We bought clothes for like 20,000, and he's just like, it's like we just spent that like in 2 hours, and then
Yeah.
we went to the bank and I gave them like $500,000 each.
Fucking hell.
He had so much money, he just didn't know what to do. It's like I used to go back to my hood in Bronxville, like in New York, where he used to live, and I just used to give bags of money to the people that I used to live with, like to my friends, like 20 bags, 25 bags. You should just give money for them, because like I have so much money, I just didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
So obviously it could be a mixture to Ryan Garcia right now, between mental health problems, obviously the fame, and he just maybe doesn't even want to fight, but he have to fight because there's
his
a contract and there's
yeah.
politics and they're involved, and trainers and all of that stuff. But at the same time, the stuff he talks, like, you remember when I said it was like, Andrew, like, I know what was happening. Like, they asked me to, they tied me up to the tree and they asked me to watch the new, like, fucking kids, and I was like,
kids and shit.
fucking hell, man, that's mad.
But like when you look at sort of elite groups like Bohemian Grove, and there's that guy that recorded it, and he goes to those politicians.
Alex Jones.
Yeah, Alex Jones, and he's like, sort of like, what the fuck is all of this about? Whatever it is, it's fucking weird, and it kind of makes you think that there is definitely some sort of thresholds that you meet when you reach these certain, like the difference between a millionaire and a billionaire. I think there's some kind of, like, I think doors open for you when you reach a B. You know what I mean? That maybe you wouldn't when you were earning millions. And I know that sort of people within those realms of that money like to hang out with famous people because it gives them clout, and they like, and you can just kind of see that that's kind of like a mixing pool where they feel like they're on kind of like upper levels. And I think it just kind of makes you do weird shit. There's like there's so many celebrities that just kind of, or people that fall to their own sort of, like, I suppose, gluttonous sort of ambitions, right? But I think in human nature, when you have that much money and that much control, where does it end? You just start looking for more and more weirder stuff, and
you just go to extremes, I guess.
Yeah, you just, because you've had so many hits of dopamine that nothing really affects you, so then you start
100%. You just go crazy. You know,
it's like when you look at sort of Scientology, and people with that much influence, money, and power can influence all these people, and maybe that's the end result for some of these people in power, is that how many people can I influence to believe one set of things or whatever.
Well, you could look at that way, right? We spoke about porn addiction and people that fry their brain so much they have to start look at the weird shit to actually get themselves hard in it, because they tried so much stuff and nothing really satisfies them anymore. So now they have to go to like extremes to like, I'm not gonna name it, but
no, I know what you mean. And then before you know it, they've started some kind of revolution or some fucking damn cult, or have joined something, and it kind of opens up to weird thing. And I think that there is some kind of elite threshold.
I do believe that, man, 100%.
Whether or not you're born into it, or if you're a part of those circles. Because let's say you and I were the sons of billionaires, and we were to hang out together for all of our childhood, and then all of a sudden we go to school together, and then you are working in politics, and I'm like, got an oil company, and I'm like, yeah, Conrad, you've known me for years. Why don't you just drop out that Paris Agreement? I know it's not very good for the environment, but my business is going to not succeed because of it. And you're going to see me as someone that's a friend, not necessarily for the good of
for the people, innit?
So there's definitely...
Because it's your environment. Like,
yeah, because you're around these environments, and, you know, I feel like there's a lot of that
100%.
goes on, for sure.
And especially if you, like, at the very top level, there are that many people that, like, making moves. So if you got like billions of money, you're going to know the other billionaires.
Yeah,
because there's not many of you are in the world, innit?
And like, look at like things like Epstein Island, where you know. Where you like he had a picture of Bill Clinton wearing a dress in the house.
Seriously?
Yeah, and it was kind of almost like a statement to be like, I got you by the fucking balls, in a way. Like if you've got a president of the United States like on a massive picture.
Maybe he was just fancy now.
Maybe, but like how terrifying is that?
It's crazy.
Because then you start thinking, okay, if they're gonna blackmail people and get them to do weird fucking shit, and then they've then been like, well, I can show this, or, you know, put you down whenever I want to, because you will make these decisions for me. Because
exactly, because I know something about you that
I know something about you that you it's kind of, there's a lot of that shit, I think,
bro. Like when you look at it, and
it's business.
Yeah, and when you look at these elite peoples, when they get asked about Epstein Island, and it seems like all of them just like start to talk. They just become so weird.
It was
like
weird.
When they asked about Bill Gates about it, he's like, "Oh, I don't know."
When I worked in yachting, and when I worked for some of these billionaires, and I worked for one Russian family, and he was a part of the oligarchs, and it was all so. For example, I wasn't allowed to speak Russian, or I wasn't allowed to understand Russian, because they didn't want me to hear conversations that he was having, because he was like an accountant for one of the oligarchs. So it was all this kind of like compartments, and they do background check after background check after. Like when I joined one yacht, it was NDA after NDA to an FBI check. They know everything about like crew and stewardess and people that work for people within those circles.
Like, were they friendly?
Though that family wasn't. No, it was like super standoffish. Like everything was, you weren't allowed to sort of speak unless you were spoken to. You weren't allowed to be in certain rooms if there were conversations going down. I wasn't allowed to use the Wi-Fi they were using. That kind of stuff. Yeah, it was weird. Because
was the ladies fit? Were the ladies fit?
Some of them were, yeah.
The Russians, innit?
Brave, amazing. But you like that, because they obviously have to know things that, you know, if anyone has that information, it's like
exactly.
Yeah, it's kind of fucked, and there's people actively trying to hack that kind of information. But
yeah,
it kind of shows how some of these elites operate. But kind of going back to the whole kind of Bohemian Grove and all of that kind of stuff, I think there's some kind of agenda and control there for sure. And sometimes I think it looks so real that how can it even be a conspiracy at this point for some of the stuff like that? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it seems so obvious, but at the same time, we don't know. We don't know shit. So we just peasants walking around. That's it. Doing a podcast, and that's all that we know. But we'll definitely do it again. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
We have a lot more to talk about, but
no.
I don't want to sit here for 3 hours.
Okay.
Yeah, man.
Well, let's wrap it up there then.
Unless you have anything to add.
I'm good. We can leave it there. Let's do it.
I mean, I wanted to.
Do you want to you touch on one if you want to touch on
one? Yeah. I mean, the only one I've got is simulation theory, but we just kind of spoke about it on the previous episode. So, I mean, yeah, the only ones I wanted to touch is Bob Lazar and Illuminati, because with all the shit that's going on with Ryan Garcia right now is just.
Did you see that Instagram post where he was fucking reading essentially off this? He was reading.
Oh, that was just crazy.
It honestly looked as if like someone had.
Yeah, I really apologize for what I said, and it's just like,
it's bizarre.
Why are you saying that?
It's bizarre. He's fighting tonight.
He's definitely gonna lose. Like, I hopefully he's not gonna get hurt too bad, because he's definitely not in the right spot. He's definitely not in the right spot.
We'll see.
But if he wins, mate, I would be crazy.
Let the show continue, bro.
Yeah, literally. So to wrap it up, we're not crazy. We're not wearing tinfoils during our free time.
I enjoy crazy conversations.
But I love craziness, and when I'm having a downtime, I love reading conspiracy theories. So I've got us. Do you have a secret question? Because I've got one.
Did I write one? Oh, I did, yeah.
Well, I've got a good one. Well, next time we talk about more about Epstein Island. I wanted to talk about it more, but I wanted to prepare more about it, but
yeah.
I didn't know much about. Didn't get into
I know what you mean. I didn't prepare much on Epstein Island as well, even though I do know some about it, but
yeah.
We'll go into it. You go first.
So if you had a proof of the fact that aliens exist, how would you go about disclosing it? And would you? But bear in mind that the government would try to cancel you, put you in jail, and etc. So you would have to be very strategic on how you disclose that information to the world.
Yeah, I would release it. I think it's like due down to my like for the fucking good of mankind.
But how would you?
How would I disclose it?
Obviously, it has to be very strategic.
I would just like video myself and send it to everyone and just be like, post this. If I had hardcore evidence of like
hardcore evidence, yeah. But like government would try to cancel you. They would try to put you in jail.
How would I do it?
Like, yeah. How would you make sure that everyone would see it before they would kill you? Basically?
Well, I mean, if I wasn't able to put it online, then how would that work?
Well, obviously you can put it online, but then if that doesn't get many views and it gets cancelled, then the government comes to you. Like, you have to be very strategic on how you approach that.
I'd create loads of videos, and I would just stash them.
Yeah.
Just tell everyone where those videos are and just keep posting them with different IP addresses and stuff like that. How would you do it?
I'd probably.
Once it's online, it's online. You can't really take that shit down.
Well, you can. Like how you take off YouTube videos and.
I don't think you really can. Once it's up, it's up.
How did they what was the video that they how did they take Andrew Tate off like banking and.
Yeah, but his videos still exist on.
Not his videos, like people creating these videos for him. Obviously, because he went so viral, but
yeah.
But it doesn't mean that you would go viral. You would have to come up with something like everyone would see, and then you're just gone. If they would kill you,
I would put like a screening on in the middle of London and just do something like that. I don't know.
You would have to do something like that gets a lot of attention, innit? Kick the doors of BBC and start to.
Fuck yeah. Fuck the BBC. If you could go back into one point, it's kind of a similar question. It was kind of related because I was doing a lot more sort of stuff on
Egypt
and stuff like that. But if you could go to one point in history or to one megalith in the world and see what it would have been like at that time, where would you go? And I'm going to say apart from Egypt.
A part of Egypt, okay. You know, in Sahara, they think that Atlantis existed there. I'd go there. I'd go there 12,000 years ago.
Before the Younger Dryas. Because it was apparently a tropical...
Apparently yeah. Sahara used to be a tropical. Yeah. So I'd go there.
That would be amazing to see that. If only.
100%.
All right, let's roll it out.
All right, let's wrap up. guys, hope you enjoy that. That was a completely different topic from what we spoke, but I'm gonna repeat myself again. We wanted to create a space where we're not only talking about how to find your purpose, about men's mental health, but we also want to create a space for entertainment. And we're not going to have as many episodes on aliens and all of that, but we're going to sometimes we're going to drift away. And I guess it's a way of showing that life has to be has to have a little bit of entertainment as well. It's not about,
I think it's just kind of having
topics.
out of the box conversations and thoughts, and at the end of the day it's triangle theories, it's different theories, it's trying to understand all points of views, whether it's ridiculous or true or resonates to people's personal lives. I think it's kind of just building on all kinds of interesting things that allow us to have a bit more of an understanding of what this is. So
if you liked it, let us know why you did, and if you didn't, which is more importantly, let us know what you didn't like about it, and let us know any topics that you would like us to research and talk about.
We'll see you in the next one.
See you next one.